spiritual will had at that moment entirely stepped into a new realm. If before Luo Feng's spiritual will was tenacious and indestructible, not shaken even if the world ends, can cut through all obstacles on the path, then at this moment Luo Feng's spiritual will had gained an additional layer of nuance. Spiritual will, when gathered, can be as unstoppable as the heavens and earth. When divided, it can branch into billions, endlessly bursting with vitality. Even if Luo Feng's spiritual will was subjected to a terrible attack, as long as a trace remained, it could rapidly recover to its pinnacle. This was the heart of eternality that Luo Feng had comprehended from the Calamity Beast diagram. Possessing the heart of eternality was the key to overcoming countless calamities and reaching the final shore, to truly transform oneself. My spiritual will had long ago reached the peak level of a primal chaos overlord. Yet even becoming an eternal true god, with a godly body 100 billion times stronger, and after cultivating the Lai Yuan technique for more than 24 eras, I still hadn't made a breakthrough. It was all because I lacked an essential understanding. Without an essential understanding, one can only rely on the passage of time to refine oneself. I'm afraid that only after several thousand or even tens of thousands of years of refining the Lai Yuan technique can the breakthrough to a godly king's will occur. Luo Feng suddenly had this enlightenment. Time is indeed magical. With long periods of refinement, there will eventually be rewards. But the fact that I could make a breakthrough in such a short time owes much to the 3000 Void Calamity Beast diagram, which has transformed my understanding of spiritual will. I've only grasped the mere basics of the Calamity Beast diagram, and yet I've transformed. How terrifying must the actual Calamity Beasts be? Luo Feng wondered. With this transformation of will, my strength has finally increased significantly. Facing a primal chaos overlord, I now have means to respond. Luo Feng felt considerably more at ease. In the past, it was the pinnacle primal chaos will combined with the Lai Yuan technique, but the ancient primal chaos overlords possessed a variety of inheritances, all with rather formidable secret techniques of willpower. And even those with exceptional talent could comprehend the origin Great Tao to create their own secret technique of willpower. Their will, even if not reaching the pinnacle of primal chaos, generally would not differ by much. Therefore, once they engaged in battle, if the gap in willpower was not significant, then merely relying on the advantage of the Lai Yuan technique would make it difficult to defeat the opponent. An injured primal chaos overlord could still launch a frenzied counterattack. According to my master's intelligence, amongst the primal chaos overlords, only a few have spiritual wills that have broken through to the godly king level. Luo Feng thought, below the level of a godly king's will, it's likely that none can match me. A godly king's will and the pinnacle primal chaos will are fundamentally different. With the advantage of the Lai Yuan technique, I would be more than sufficient to sweep through most of the primal chaos realm. As my strength increases, the advantage of the Lai Yuan technique will also diminish. Luo Feng understood this point. According to my master's information, Yuan in the land of origin is a legend who has escaped the braided cage. He has also guided many juniors and left behind some inheritances. The Lai Yuan technique is just one among them. The inheritances left by Yuan indeed caused a scramble among the various forces in the land of origin, with the majority ultimately being controlled by the two ancient countries. Moreover, my master suspects that there must also be some ancient beings in the two ancient countries who have broken free from the braided cage, because those countries are far too strong compared to others, with many mysterious and powerful inheritances. Luo Feng mused. For instance, the emperor of the flame-wined ancient country who painted this drawing. I've only grasped a bit of the fundamentals, and yet I've made a breakthrough. And he had watched the Calamity Beasts and personally painted many Calamity Beast diagrams. Luo Feng had some understanding that these Calamity Beast diagrams were sold to outsiders for 15 million cosmic sand each. But to that emperor of the flame-wined ancient country, he probably didn't care about the cosmic sand at all. What he cared about were the repeated drawings of the Calamity Beast diagrams. Each time he drew, it must have been an act of spiritual cultivation. That emperor who drew the Calamity Beast diagrams, to what realm has his spiritual will reached? Luo Feng could sense, even from just a part of the 3000 Void Calamity Beast diagram, how vast the gap between himself and the painter was. My spiritual will has just entered the threshold of a godly king's level. And what about him? The flame-wined ancient country is indeed unfathomable. If one emperor is so terrifying, there are probably more than one of such beings. The higher Luo Feng's strength rose, the more serene he became. He had not a hint of arrogance, knowing there were many stronger than him. But he also had not a trace of inferiority, for even at the stage of an eternal true God, he possessed a godly king's will. When he becomes a godly king in the future, to what realm will his spiritual will reach? Sigh. Luo Feng glanced at the 3000 Void Calamity Beast diagram floating in the air and, with a single thought, he left the Star Tower. When Luo Feng exited the underground hall, he saw Morosa leisurely eating and drinking at the foot of the mountain. It's been so long, and you're still not done digesting. Luo Feng took a step and approached Morosa. Morosa smiled naively. I can't waste the effects. I need to fully digest them. I guess in a few more days, I can go into seclusion again. Luo Feng nodded in understanding. Going into seclusion again meant that it was time for Morosa to consume the divine body of Xian to achieve the primal chaos realm. When the time comes, my realm will also break through, and I'll master several innate secret techniques. Morosa communicated through his spirit. I can also show the master the complete law of primal chaos. Let's see your performance. Luo Feng smiled faintly. The higher Morosa's realm, the more mysteries of destruction's origin he could show to Luo Feng, which naturally included the law of primal chaos. The law of primal chaos is magical, the foundation of any origin great Tao. The sector beast is indeed the favored child of the highest rules, naturally mastering the origin of destruction and, with growth, would ultimately fully control the great Tao of destruction origin, possessing inconceivable abilities. Master, I feel you're a bit different today, Morosa observed Luo Feng, for as a soul-enslaved servant, with their spirits connected, he could faintly sense the changes in his master. I've had some realizations in my cultivation, Luo Feng said. You go ahead and eat slowly. Luo Feng flashed and was already at the mountain peak. Morosa glanced over and muttered under his breath, some insights. Keep having insights, but I've already become primal chaos realm. The taste of being stronger than his own master. Morosa found it particularly exhilarating. Hometown, Luo Feng's small universe. Luo Feng and his wife, Su Din, were leisurely exploring. Their small universe had a diameter of 100 billion light years, and human civilization was extremely flourishing. Although Luo Feng could sense countless planets within the small universe with a thought that would make it boring, he chose not to deliberately probe, and instead enjoyed touring different places with his wife, discovering fresh new experiences. Luo Feng, let's go. Accompany me to see the divine tree on this planet. Just one planet, and yet over 70% of it is made up of a single divine tree. It's so interesting, Su Din said. You go ahead, Luo Feng said. I have something to do today. I should go first. Su Din was startled. Can't you just send a divine power incarnation to handle your affairs? You don't have the energy to accompany me. Her husband's realm was so high, he could manage many divine power incarnations simultaneously with a single thought. Today is different. Luo Feng shook his head. Even my true body at the other end of the samsara channel needs to rest and give this my all. What is it? Su Din asked curiously. Dealing with the primordial cosmos, Luo Feng said. Su Din was shocked. Dealing with the primordial cosmos? Yes. I needed to completely open up the source ground of the primordial cosmos to me, Luo Feng said. During the last reincarnation era, when the primordial cosmos was destroyed, I entered the source ground of the primordial cosmos. Back then, the primordial cosmos only allowed me into a small corner of the source ground. Now, I wanted to open up every part of the source ground of the primordial cosmos to me, without any hidden areas, Luo Feng continued. The information from the master, from the Duandong River lineage, and even some information circulated on the land of origin all had records about the primordial cosmos. The primordial cosmos, with its 3,000 dimensions, allowed strong beings who braved the cycle of reincarnation to arrive on the land of origin a chance if their will was strong enough to seize control of the primordial cosmos. However, the will of the primordial cosmos was generally very strong. It often required a primal chaos level will and possibly even a godly king level will to be successful. Thus, those who successfully seized control were still few and far between. But for every successful individual, the benefits for their cultivation were substantial. It's individuals like the mountain-sitting guest, who were already godly kings, that didn't have much ambition to seize control of the primordial cosmos. Completely opens up every part of the source ground. Su-din didn't quite understand, but she knew from listening that it was extraordinary. In that situation, the life and death of the primordial cosmoses would be in my hands, Luo Feng explained. I could erase its will at any time, replacing it with my own, and control the entire primordial cosmos. So, the will of the primordial cosmos won't agree to it easily. I never thought about having to erase its will. I'll give it a chance to live, provided it opens up the source ground to me completely, Luo Feng said. This was the biggest opportunity for every strong being that came to the land of origin through the cycle of reincarnation. Are you confident? Su-din asked. I wasn't in the past, but now I am, Luo Feng said. According to the information, even if the naturally born will of the primordial cosmos used the cosmos as its vessel, it couldn't contend with a godly king-level will. Be careful, Su-din knew the importance of her husband's task. The one that needs to be careful is the primordial cosmos, Luo Feng said with a slight smile. At this moment, a strand of divine power incarnation had already left the small universe and was traveling through the void, heading straight for the primordial cosmos. At this moment, Luo Feng's true body and other incarnations were resting, with almost all of his consciousness focused on this strand of divine power incarnation, making its consciousness exceptionally vast. Boom, this strand of divine power incarnation had barely approached the primordial cosmos when an invisible wave of spiritual will crushed down. One was a weak divine power incarnation. The other was the immeasurably vast primordial cosmos. Without the constraints of the supreme laws, when Luo Feng's spiritual will collided with the primordial cosmos, the will of the primordial cosmos began to tremble. A vibration came through, inquiring about Luo Feng's purpose. Will of the primordial cosmos, you should know that, as a creature born from the primordial cosmos, being powerful enough gives me the right to control it. This is an opportunity for cultivation granted to me by the supreme laws, Luo Feng's thoughts conveyed. The will of the primordial cosmos sent back vibrations, a mix of annoyance and urgency. You understand, you can't threaten me, Luo Feng continued to convey his thoughts. I give you two choices. One is to open up the source ground of the primordial cosmos to me completely, leaving no secrets from my sight. Your will would still exist and could still control the primordial cosmos. The other option is to refuse me, and my will would invade the primordial cosmos, even into the source ground. Then, I will erase your will and completely control the primordial cosmos. The will of the primordial cosmos sent out waves. It was negotiating. The source ground was very important to it, just as the true God's heart was to a true God. If completely opened, Luo Feng could erase it at any moment, and it would be powerless to resist. It only wanted to open up a part, unwilling to expose its most core areas.